Who or what is the Cosmic Serpent, and what does that have to do with Zayne and his next myth? The Cosmic Serpent is a symbol meant to represent the dual nature of the universe and existence, creation and destruction, order and chaos, life and death, rebirth, and the cyclical nature of time. The cosmic serpent throughout history has been embodied in myths such as Hinduism's primordial serpent of creation Shishanaga, and Aztec and Mayan mythological winged serpent gods of creation Quetzalcoatl and Kukulkan, whose winged serpentine bodies act as a representation of the bridge between the spiritual and material realms. But what does that have to do with Zayne? Early on in the game, a Deep Space Times article is released that you can only send to him. In it, it talks about dreams and whether or not they could potentially be memories of past lives. Kukulkan is also mentioned within it. Kukulkan is also a deity of wind and rain, and it just so happens to rain in quite a few of Zayne's memories as well. But the connection between this symbol of the cosmic serpent and Zayne doesn't stop here. The cosmic serpent is also closely tied to the image of a winding double helix, which ancient mystics saw not just as a symbol for the winding body of the cosmic serpent, but also akin to an ascending ladder, the coiling body of the serpent bridging heaven and earth. We see a blatant representation of this in the splash art for the card End of Depths. Zayne holds the dual winding winged double helix serpent staff of Hermes, the Greek messenger of the gods, otherwise known as the caduceus staff, evidenced by the winding serpents and wings seated at the top of it. The double helix structure of the two serpents intertwining is meant to symbolize the union of opposites and the balance that must be maintained between them. The double helix of the caduceus just so happens to also be found within our own DNA, and being that the double helix is attributed to the cosmic serpent, it's since sparked the idea within mysticism that the cosmic serpent's essence lies within DNA itself, marking it as the source of all creation. And when it comes to the serpent god Shishanaga, it's believed that its own spine acts like a circuit, pulsing with the divine power that maintains the cosmos itself. And according to the Kundalini, that same energy lies within the spine, as evidenced by the caduceus staff. So is it really a coincidence that the symbol of DNA can also be found on Zayne's back in the Catch-22 banner?
Coincidence? I think not!
Back to the caduceus staff and Hermes, a messenger is also another word for emissary, and we just so happen to know Zayne holds the title of the emissary of the divine, who Tara and Nero explains means a messenger who can communicate with godlike entities.
It can mean a messenger who can communicate with godlike entities.
Even if they do exist, finding someone like that would be harder than finding aliens. And if those higher dimensional life forms aren't saying anything, well, even an emissary might not know they're one.
Hermes himself acts as an emissary to the gods, and Psychopomp, guiding souls to the underworld, a bridge between the mortal and divine realms above and below, just as the cosmic serpent is meant to be. Speaking of the underworld, behind Zayne also sit the statues of Hades and Hygeia, evidenced by the telltale staff of Hades held in the hand of one, and a bowl and serpent held in the hands of the other. They, like the caduceus staff, are meant to symbolize the balance between opposing forces, and how that balance is embodied and upheld by Zayne. Hades, being the god of the underworld, and Hygeia represents health and healing, in other words, life. This feeds into the fact Zayne believes that the balance of life and death must be upheld not through the conquering of death, but through the prolonging of life, particularly when it comes to the role of the medical field in maintaining that balance through the healing of the sick and injured. The snake in the bowl Hygeia holds, known as the Bowl of Hygeia, is also meant to showcase this ideal, the bowl symbolizing medicine itself, while the snake represents healing and wisdom. Hygeia, also being the Greek goddess of health and sanitation, is also one of the gods who are sworn to within the Hippocratic Oath, which we also know was a defining moment for Zayne, committing himself to a path of saving and preserving life by becoming a doctor. In other words, the concept embodied by these statues is that death cannot be conquered, it can only be postponed, a delicate balance that Zayne himself has mentioned on several occasions.
If immortality becomes achievable, why should we still accept death as the end of life?
If we set aside morals and ethics, these technologies could make immortality possible. But this also means that our goal in the medical field has shifted from conquering disease to conquering death itself. To conquer disease is to extend life, but to conquer death is to control it. Life can be extended, but the cycle of life and death should not be controlled.
This dual nature of existence is also emphasized by the existence of Dawnbreaker, the so-called Grim Reaper. Whereas Dawnbreaker ushers swift death, Dr. Zayne is the opposite, staving off death through not the conquering of, but prolonging of life in the medical field. In doing so, each maintains that delicate balance of life and death in their own way, two halves of the same whole. The duality and eternal dance of existence, life and death, chaos and order, destruction and rebirth, a bridge between the mortal and divine realms, concepts embodied by the symbol of the Cosmic Serpent, root of all creation, as well as in Zayne.
Imperfect order doesn't need to be corrected. True redemption lies in utter destruction.
Which brings me to the final point. If Zayne is meant to embody the Cosmic Serpent, could it be that that creator, mentioned at the end of Death and Rebirth, is Zayne himself, his penultimate divine version that we've yet to meet? Only time will tell.